everyone, it's Katie from Paradise Falls family. In this video we'll be continuing our Thailand series and giving a bit of an overview of Khao Lak and some of the bits and pieces you can get up to, as well as some tips for a holiday here. Last week we covered our hotel, the Sands Khao Lak, and we'll continue over the following weeks with some of the day trips we enjoyed. But here we'll focus on the Khao Lak area itself. We had a wonderful time spending 10 days here, and Khao Lak is a wonderful family-friendly holiday destination. So first off, a brief overview of the geography of the area. Khao Lak is an area just north of the island of Phuket in the Phang Nga region of Thailand. The Khao Lak area actually consists of 3 villages or towns stretching across this coastline, and the sands where we stayed and where we spent most of our time is located in the first or the most southerly village. It's just over an hour from Phuket International Airport. The villages are linked by a main road that runs parallel to the coastline, and the sands sit between this main road and the coastline of the Andaman Sea, meaning it was really handy for heading out into town. Moving slightly further afield, if you head north from Khao Lak and inland a little, you'll find Khao Sok National Park, which is home to the Chiao Lan Lake and the oldest rainforest in the world. This is where you can stay in floating bungalows on the lake, go hiking in the jungle, and even try and spot wild elephants and monkeys. We enjoyed a day trip here, which we'll cover later in this series. Immediately east of Khao Lak are the surrounding mountains, which is actually what Khao means in Thai. If you head south, you'll pass through the Khao Lak Lumpur National Park on the way down to Phuket. Then to the east of Phuket is Phang Nga Bay, and on the other side of which is Krabi, another popular tourist destination, meaning you've got Khao Lak, Phuket and Krabi all within the area as good bases for a vacation. We picked Khao Lak as we'd heard it was the quieter of the 3, so best for a family vacation. Phang Nga Bay itself is home to a series of islands, including the famous James Bond Island and the Phi Phi Islands, both of which we visited on day trips, and again we'll cover later in the series. And then finally, if you head west from the coastline of Khao Lak, you'll find the Similin and Surin Islands, both of which are idyllic and famous for their snorkelling, and both of which can be accessed on day trips. We didn't actually make it out here, partly because we weren't sure how much the kids would enjoy snorkelling, and partly because we'd heard the seas were a bit choppy. But it does sound incredible, and it's something we hope to try one day. Now moving back a little closer to home and the area immediately around Khao Lak. Firstly, there's the Turtle Sanctuary just south of town, and you can also go bamboo rafting in the surrounding jungle, and we enjoyed both of these on organised day trips. Then there's the Little Amazon, where you can canoe through the mangroves and jungle, spotting wildlife in the trees above. This was really high on our list, but we couldn't quite fit it in this time. The town of Takua Pat is also worth noting, and it's around 30 minutes north of Khao Lak. This has a strong Chinese community and sounds like a really interesting place, so it's worth keeping in mind for an afternoon or an evening to wander and explore. There are also plenty of beautiful waterfalls in the area, some of which require a hike through the jungle to reach, and others which are easier to access. Although in the summer season when we visited, a lot of these had almost dried up, so keep that in mind. And then of course there are loads of beautiful temples around the area which you can visit on organised tours. So lots to see and do and to keep you busy whilst you're here. Now looking at Khao Lak and the villages themselves. As I said, we primarily spent most of our time in the most southerly village where our hotel, the Sands, was located. It was very easy to wander from the hotel up onto the main road that links the 3 villages, or alternatively you could hop in one of the hotel tuk-tuks for around 150 to 200 baht, which was around £4. Tuk-tuks are the taxis of Thailand and are basically trucks with seats built into the back. They're a lot of fun to ride in, but keep hold of your kids and your hats as we did lose a cap on the highway. Some of the tuk-tuks are kitted out as disco tuk-tuks with lights and music, which our kids loved. The Sands doesn't have any of these, but I'd say around maybe half of the taxis on the main street were kitted out like this, so they're very easy to find. Alternatively, we did book a disco tuk-tuk ourselves one day through Penny and Oat Taxi, who we saw recommended online. We just messaged them on Facebook and arranged the pickup, requesting a disco taxi specifically, so this is always an option if you really want to try one of these. Out on the main street itself, it is really busy with multiple lanes of traffic going in either direction and only a few actual pedestrian crossings. So it's not always that easy to get to the other side, so keep that in mind. Both sides are lined with shops and restaurants, so you really are spoilt for choice for where to eat. We did a bit of research beforehand and found a few good restaurant recommendations. The first of these was the Gold Elephant restaurant. This is right at the bottom of the village, so it's a fair walk from the Sands. We got a taxi there, enjoyed our meal and then walked back. It's a really lovely restaurant, with the restaurant up on the first floor. It's a really cool setting, and then there's live music played downstairs in the bar. The service was brilliant, the menu and food excellent, and it only cost us £35 for the four of us, which we thought was brilliant value. The menu had a great selection of local dishes and had some Western food as well, so all four of us ate really well. We'd highly recommend a meal here. Then we also ate at Mojo, which is a bit further up the road, closer to the Sands and not far from McDonald's as a reference point. We stumbled across this restaurant as we were walking past and it was brilliant. Once again, the setting was great, fantastic service and great food. The menu again had both local food and some Western options, and we really enjoyed our evening here, so we definitely recommend giving this one a try as well. We were also recommended a couple of other restaurants which we didn't have time to try. In particular, the Orchid and Poo View, which is up in the hills and apparently has amazing views over the area. A couple for next time perhaps. In terms of shops, we noticed lots of tourist souvenir shops, but there were also lots of tailors and plenty of massage parlours along the way. Taxis were readily available as I've mentioned, so it's really easy to get out into the town and explore. Moving up to the second of the three villages, we spent a little time here as it's where you'll find the Niang market. This is a brilliant night market which runs on Mondays, Wednesdays and Saturdays from around 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's right on the main road, so you can jump in a tuk-tuk for just a few pounds and they'll take you there in no time. The market is probably the best night market we've ever visited. It was absolutely buzzing with loads going on, loads to eat and lots to buy. It is busy, but we never felt uncomfortable at all, and all of the vendors were very friendly, not too pushy and happy to haggle as well. We enjoyed some ice cream rolls which were amazing and picked up some souvenirs and presents and spent some time wandering and browsing. I think if you're staying in Khao Lak, this is probably a must-do. We decided against eating properly at one of the stalls as we wanted to sit down somewhere a bit quieter, so we popped over the road and found a restaurant on the main strip. We settled on the Happy Barbecue restaurant, which was fine. The food was nice, service good and a decent menu again. Probably not quite as nice a setting or food as the other meals that we had during our trip, but we would eat here again. There are a couple of other points of interest in this area of Khao Lak. Firstly, down by the beach is the Kukalo Beach Club, which puts on fire shows every Wednesday, Friday and Saturday. We'd seen this recommended and had planned to visit, but the Sands put on a fire show on Valentine's Day, so we decided against going to another one in the end, but it is one to add to your list. There are a couple of places that put on fire shows, including I think Memories further up the coast, and we're glad we managed to catch one while we were here. Just over the road from the market is the International Tsunami Museum. Khao Lak was badly hit by the December 2004 tsunami that hit the region, and we noticed several memorials around the area as a result. The Tsunami Museum is also where you'll find the Police Boat 813 Memorial. This was a police boat that I believe was guarding the royal family out at sea when the tsunami hit and was washed 1 kilometre inland. Now it's kept as a memorial to the tragic event alongside the museum. We didn't visit here as we did visit another memorial by the Turtle Sanctuary, but it's an easy stop if you're in the village. Slightly further up the road is the Thai boxing stadium. I know this is really popular with locals and tourists alike. It wasn't something we were too interested in, so we never really looked into it, but it's here and available if you'd like to take in a fight. We also saw loads of adverts for Thai boxing classes, even in our hotel, so you can get involved and give it a try if you want to. And then finally, the third and most northern of the villages. This is perhaps where we spent the least time, as you might expect with us staying further away. However, we did come up this way to visit the Khao Lak Elephant Sanctuary, to go to Memories Beach, and we did plan to have a meal here at Pam's. We saw absolutely loads of recommendations to eat here, and they also offer cooking classes which also come highly recommended. We were all set to visit, but when we messaged to book a table, they were all booked up for the whole week, so unfortunately we'd missed our chance. So make sure to book ahead. We just messaged on Facebook. I think they also offer a transfer from your hotel as well if you need it. We also saw this offered by Poo View as well, so keep this in mind as an option. Pam's is very close by the Wat Koo Kak Temple, which we did drive past on our way back from Memories Beach. It looked absolutely beautiful, and we noticed quite a few beautiful temples dotted around the region. There are tours you can book which take you to several of these. Obviously you need to be respectful, and so if you're visiting, be prepared with appropriate clothing. I think this includes covering knees and shoulders and no caps, but please check with your tour guide. Moving on to Memories Beach and the beaches in general. Obviously Khao Lak is situated along the coastline, so wherever you stay you're going to be close to a good beach. As we were staying at the Sands, we looked out onto Niang Beach. This was lovely, although a little small and rocky in places. We found that if you walked a couple of minutes to the right, which was in the northern direction, there was a nice cove, and we spent some time there. Moving on up, there are various different beaches: Bang Niang Beach, Khao Lak Beach, Koo Kak Beach, but the couple we saw really recommended were the White Sands Beach, Coconut Beach and Memories Beach. These are all located in the north of Khao Lak, just north of the third village. We decided to give Memories Beach a try and jumped in a taxi here for 500 baht each way, which was around £12. The effort was definitely worth it. Memories Beach was brilliant. We were drawn here firstly because we'd heard it was a lovely beach, but it's also very close to an elephant home and has the Memories Beach Bar where we thought we could get some lunch. The taxi ride out here is pretty bumpy and dusty on the dirt roads, but it doesn't take long, and we were dropped off at the beach bar, where there are also shops, restrooms, ice cream stands and loads of free sun lounges on the beach. It's really set up for a great day. We started with lunch at the beach bar, which was great. with your toes in the sand and views across the beach and ocean. Once again, the menu was brilliant and had loads of choice, so we all ate well, and it only came to around £30 for the 4 of us, which was fairly typical for a meal out over here. Then we enjoyed a good few hours on the beach. We managed to get some of the last sun loungers, which were free and came with shades, and the kids had a blast playing in the waves and on the sand. We didn't stay here all afternoon just because it was incredibly hot, so we fancied heading back to have a pool afternoon. But we would really recommend heading up here to check out the beaches. Before we left though, we wanted to pop up to the nearby elephant home. There are loads of elephant sanctuaries dotted across the region. Something we were really conscious of before we visited though were the standards of the sanctuaries and which were ethical and which were not. From our research, we generally found the better sanctuaries are those which offer the least physical interaction with the elephants, so that's no riding and no bathing. Not all of the sanctuaries abide by this, so we picked ours really carefully. Phuket Elephant Sanctuary seemed to be the best, but this was too far away from us. We settled on the Khao Lak Elephant Sanctuary, which is in the north of Khao Lak, and which we visited on a pre-booked excursion. We're going to cover this in next week's vlog, but this was excellent and we were really happy with our choice, and it appeared the elephants were really well looked after and cared for, and it was a wonderful experience. The sanctuary by Memories Beach is called Elephant Home. We decided to pop here because we'd had such a great time at the Khao Lak Elephant Sanctuary, and this one was right by the beach, and we'd read you could just walk up and buy a basket of fruit to feed the elephants, so we decided to give this a try. We hadn't done much research into this sanctuary beforehand though. It was a very easy 5-minute walk from the beach up the road to the sanctuary, and we were able to walk up and buy some baskets of fruit and milk for around £8 each. There was a little souvenir shop where you can book other activities here, which do include elephant bathing. For us though, we were allowed to wander over to the elephants on the other side of the site and feed them our fruit and milk. There were 2 elephants here when we visited, but we did see others arriving back as we left, including a couple of babies. It was lovely to feed them the fruit and the milk. They're wonderful, beautiful animals, and they did seem well taken care of. But we did notice ropes around their necks, and with some of the other activities on offer, it just didn't sit right with us. We wouldn't visit this one again. Each to their own, but we would very much recommend the Khao Lak Elephant Sanctuary, which as I said we'll cover in next week's vlog. So now, moving on to some more practical tips for your trip. Firstly, arrival and departure. To reach Khao Lak, you fly into Phuket International Airport. This is in the north of Phuket Island, and then it's just over an hour's drive up to Khao Lak. You can pre-book transfers yourself online through a tour provider. For us, we'd booked our flights and accommodation through Katathani, so they arranged these for us in a private minibus, and it all ran like clockwork. Next up, safety. Whenever we travel somewhere, and particularly with the kids, safety is a key issue for us. We were pleased to find Thailand to be a fantastic country where we always felt safe and well taken care of. I think every single local person we came across we found to be really friendly and helpful, which was so refreshing. All of the staff in the hotel, the tour guides, our servers in restaurants, the taxi drivers were all so lovely and happy to help. We never felt unsafe at all, and we'd really recommend it as a brilliant destination for families. From a health perspective, there were a few things we thought about before we visited, mainly around vaccinations. None of what I'm about to say is health advice, we're just passing on our experiences and what we decided to do. You should consult with your doctor and on the NHS website to see what's best for you personally and your circumstances. For us, we checked the NHS site, which directed us to Travel Health Pro. This suggests a range of vaccinations, some of which are recommended and some of which are optional. In the end, we booked a travel vaccination consultation at Superdrug to discuss it with a professional. We ended up all having hepatitis A, tetanus and typhoid vaccinations, plus we also opted to get the rabies vaccinations. The rabies vaccinations were classed as optional, but we knew we wanted to get out and about a bit, and we knew we'd be seeing monkeys and other wildlife. And as the treatment for rabies is very time critical and can be hard to obtain, we wanted to take a cautious approach and ensure we were protected. All of this wasn't cheap, costing around £1,000 for the 4 of us, so it's something to account for when budgeting out your trip. The other optional vaccination was Japanese encephalitis. This is a mosquito-borne disease, and we were told it's more prevalent if you're near swamps, marshes and rice fields. This would have cost us nearly another £1,000 to get vaccinated against this, so it was a factor in us deciding against staying out in Elephant Hills in the Khao Sok National Park on the lake, and instead basing ourselves completely in Khao Lak. Ultimately, we decided against this vaccination, given where we were staying and the activities we'd be doing, but it is an important one for you to consider. A quick mention on mosquitoes generally. We did notice them, but didn't find there to be too many. We tried to keep our room doors shut and our aircon very cold to keep them out of the room, and generally we didn't find them to be too much of a problem. We did get a couple of bites, but had some bite cream with us to apply. We also used high-strength DEET mosquito repellent. We went with Jungle Formula, but there's loads you can buy. We'd also heard anecdotally that Avon's Skin So Soft spray also works really well, so we did use this at night, although I'm not sure if this helped or not. Moving on to weather. Thailand has a very changeable climate, and this area basically has a dry season and a wet season which runs from around May to October. We visited in February, so found it to be very hot and dry. Temperatures were generally around the low 30s. Towards the end of our stay, there were thunderstorms forecast, but we found these only to be overnight showers. I think the week after we left though, they did endure some pretty bad storms, but generally at this time of year, it's hot and dry and a good time to visit this area. Looking at costs and money. We booked a package through Kooni for our trip, given it was our first time visiting Thailand. Now we visited though, we'd be really comfortable booking the trip independently, as it really is a very easy country to travel in. There are plenty of tour providers who operate here though. For example, there was a TUI desk in the hotel if you want to book a standard UK package. General costs while you're in Thailand are very cheap. Obviously it costs more within the hotel as you might expect, and I covered some of this in last week's vlog on the Sands. If you venture out a little more, we found we could eat a meal for the 4 of us for around £30 to £40 depending on our order. Taxis were cheap and readily available, and we actually came back under budget on our spending, which was really nice. Obviously the day trips you book add to the cost, but we did 5 trips in all, which cost around £1,000 in total for the 4 of us, which we thought was really reasonable compared to some of the other destinations we've visited. Now looking at actual payments and cash versus credit cards. We tend to always use credit cards when we're away to build up our air miles. However, we'd seen that a lot of places in Thailand prefer cash. We found this to be accurate, so you do need to make sure you have plenty of cash on you. Obviously the hotel happily took credit cards and most of the restaurants, but most other places only took cash. We changed this before we left the UK, but we have heard that you get better rates just getting it from an ATM or changing it while you're over here. The places that did take credit cards only tended to accept Visa and MasterCard. We found American Express was rarely accepted anywhere. And finally, a quick note on food hygiene. We'd read all sorts of different opinions on this, so it's hard to know what's accurate and what isn't. From our own experience, we never had any problems. No upset tummies or any issues at all. We stuck to bottled water and asked for drinks without ice to be safe. There was a notice in our hotel saying that there was a bug going around Khao Lak, and they said it was linked to contaminated ice, and so advised guests not to have ice outside of the hotel. I don't know if this was a one-off or a common thing, but either way we were careful with the water. I think it's generally advised not to drink tap water anyway. We ate at plenty of local restaurants in the town and out on our day trips, and again, everything always seemed to be an excellent standard and we never had any issues. So hopefully this video has provided a useful summary of Khao Lak and the surrounding areas. We loved our time here and have marked it as somewhere we'd like to return, as there's plenty we didn't get to see and enjoy. If there's anything at all we've missed or anything you would like to know, please let us know in the comments below and we'll do our best to help. As always, if you found this vlog useful, please give it a like and subscribe to support our channel. Next week we'll be moving on to cover our day trips, starting with the Khao Lak Elephant Sanctuary, so make sure to subscribe to catch that. Thank you all so much for watching.